Today on the podcast, we have some breaking news out of the United States government, and that is that the United States is going to curb AI chip exports from Nvidia and AMD to some Middle Eastern countries. We're going to be talking about the countries that they are already kind of banning exports to, why they're doing this, the whole geopolitical conversation around AI and chips. That's what we're going to be diving into today. But before we do that, I wanted to give a milestone announcement to you. Now, I know you're all going to think this is a funny milestone, but as of today, it is officially 7 months since I have been working on this podcast. This is a relatively new podcast, but it's absolutely exploded. And today, the milestone we have reached is that we have officially published 365 podcasts. Now, I know that's a super random number, but that is as many days as there are in a year, and I've only been doing this for 7 months. So if you were to listen to a podcast every day, it would take you an entire year to get through the entire catalog of AI information and content that we have created. So congratulations for those that have been around since the very beginning. Thank you so much if you were joining us for the first time. Love to have you, but let's dive into the AI news today. Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Make sure that you go to aibox.ai, link in the show notes, to join the waitlist for our new AI platform. We're going to be launching an incredible platform that allows you to build anything you want with workflows in AI. So you're able to chain together ChatGPT and image generators and audio generators to make really powerful apps for your organization, or you can host them on our marketplace and actually generate royalties from them. So make sure to go to aibox.ai and join the waitlist. In addition, if you like the podcast, if you could do me a massive favor and please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. This helps me be able to get better guests on here as they check the reviews to see how you guys are liking it. So if you could please do that, I would really, really appreciate it. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. So the big headline here is that the United States government has widened the scope of export restrictions on artificial intelligence chips from Nvidia and Advanced Micro Devices, which is AMD. So they've done this to regions beyond China, because previously China was the big one that they were restricting this to. They didn't want China to catch up with their kind of AI, quote unquote, dominance. But this is now encompassing parts of the Middle East. This is really interesting because we saw a bunch of headlines a few weeks ago that the Middle East had ramped up, Saudi Arabia and other places had ramped up like massive purchasing of a lot of these different chips, spending like billions on it. And I'm sure they had forewarning by somebody, a heads up that this was coming down the pipe and we're trying to get ahead of this. I just find that like way too, I don't know, too much of a coincidence that this is just a few weeks ago, like the Middle East ramps up billions of dollars in purchases, and now they're like, the bans are kind of coming down. So I think this is kind of interesting. And another interesting thing is I was recently at the AI4 conference, and there's a bunch of industry leaders from all over AI, people from the government, people from top companies, and I heard some rumblings from some people with connections to lobbyists, government, other areas, that there was big moves being made in this space. I'm assuming this is what they were referencing to. They weren't actually saying anything. And so, yeah, I just wonder how that all gets around, who's part of the club that gets to find out ahead of time on all this kind of stuff. Very, very interesting. But in any case, we are finding out about this today because according to regulatory filings from Nvidia, these restrictions, which target the company's A100 and H100 chips, which of course are optimized for machine learning, will not have a, quote, immediate material impact on its financial results. So AMD, Nvidia's competitor in the market, has also been served with similar restrictions. A source familiar with the situation told Reuters about this, that the new restrictions are not going to materially affect AMD's revenue streams. So this is kind of interesting, right? AMD, Nvidia, they're like, look, don't worry, this isn't going to affect our revenue streams. I mean, of course, it's not going to affect their revenue streams. Right now, there's wait lists a mile long for everyone to get these chips. So it's not like, oh no, we can't ship more chips there. We're going to, no one cares about the revenue streams. They're making so much money and there's a massive shortage. So they're just going to make however much they can. They're going to charge whatever they want to charge. But it is interesting, the downstream effects of this. But export controls like these are generally instituted by U.S. officials for national security reasons. So last year, like I mentioned, a very similar action had underscored Washington's kind of tightening grip on China's technology capabilities. However, I think it remains unclear what specific, national security risks are attributed to chip exports to the Middle East. So in a follow-up statement, Nvidia clarified its stance on the issue, saying, quote, "The new licensing requirement doesn't affect a meaningful portion of our revenue. We are working with the United States government to address this matter." So the U.S. Commerce Department, responsible for administering export licenses, stated that the U.S., quote, "has not blocked chip sales to the Middle East. However, it declined to offer specific comments on new requirements affecting individual U.S. companies." So like publicly they're saying, we're not blocking chip sales, but like privately they're like, yo, Nvidia, you guys aren't allowed to like ship any more chips over there, or, you got a quota or whatever you got to follow. I don't know. It's kind of funny. Anyways, I think interestingly, last September, AMD also disclosed new license requirements that would prevent the export of its MI250 AI chips to China. And this regulatory landscape, I think, since prompted Nvidia and AMD and Intel to develop less powerful AI chips, which are exportable to the Chinese market. And so what's interesting here is it's like these licenses go to specific products and also kind of like work with different, specifications or capabilities of the products. So essentially, if they want to get around like the loophole of not being able to export to China, all they have to do is make like a less capable chip. And what's interesting is like, I guess America's okay with that because they're like, hey, we're still maintaining like our AI dominance because we can ship China chips, but they're going to be like way less powerful, so we get the best of the best kind of deal. So I think the most recent restrictions come without kind of explicit reasoning from the U.S. government, although Nvidia noted in last year's filings that the controls essentially aim to, quote, address the risk that products might be used in or diverted to a military end use or military end user in China. So I think for context, Nvidia's recent fiscal quarter reported $13.5 billion in sales, mostly which was coming from the US, China, and Taiwan. So only about 13.9% of the company's sales were attributed to other countries. And I think the specific Middle Eastern nations impacted by the news restrictions remain sort of undisclosed. So last year, the geopolitical tension concerning Taiwan, which is a significant hub for semiconductor manufacturing, added kind of a new layer of complexity to chip export policies. And in October of last year, the Biden administration took further action by issuing a comprehensive set of export controls designed to limit China's access to certain semiconductor chips manufactured globally with U.S. equipment. So I think this move aimed to kind of curb China's technological and military advancements and was subsequently echoed by Japan and the Netherlands. I think what's interesting here is that, the absence of AI chips from American companies like Nvidia and AMD has some fairly like significant ramifications, because without these more advanced chips, Chinese organizations find it difficult to perform complex computational tasks like image and speak recognition, and doing this like cost effectively. That's the big difference here. So these technologies are kind of integral, not only in consumer applications like smartphones, but also they have a lot of potential in the military and in military applications, including analyzing satellite imagery for weapons or bases and kind of sifting through digital communications for intelligence purposes. So all in all, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of criticism out of the countries banned from these things. The U.S. seems to think this is kind of like a military play where they're not just slowing down other countries' access to AI, but also their access to integrating like powerful chips and AI into their military. So kind of keeping the edge there. It's going to be interesting to see what the impact is and how this story continues to evolve.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Thank you for listening to the AI Chat Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, I'd appreciate it if you rate me wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're looking for an innovative group of AI enthusiasts, make sure you check out our Discord channel and also our Facebook community. It's obviously a lot more interactive than a podcast where we can actually share software tools, prompts that we're using in everyday AI. I'll leave a link for those in the description below.